That's how
No
you want to
sneeze.
start
He's
a
going to
live.
sneeze.
Yeah, no, burping, even worse.
Okay.
We're live. Good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to SciTrek, your sci-fi TV and movie channel.
Hello, and welcome also to the Solo One Sci-Fi podcast special.
Yeah, we're on both channels. Oh my god, the modern technology is marvelous. We are rating the second of the Star Trek movies, The Wrath of Khan. I have a big question to ask at the end of this video about The Wrath of Khan. But first of all, we'll just quickly run through the rating system that we're using once again.
Yes, you're probably better explaining it than I am. So if you don't mind saying how we do it again.
I invented it.
It's
completely invented. I'm just turning off my screen so they, hey Dave, how are you, sir? Right, so we have the Kirk rating, which is action. How much action is there? We have the Spock rating. How logical is the movie and the story? We have the Chekhov rating. Does this film embody Star Trek's values? Original Star Trek values, not the modern Star Trek values, because nobody knows what that is.
No.
We have the Bones rating. Is it funny? Mainly because me and you generally think the Bones is one of the funniest characters.
Yes, yeah, I agree.
We have the Scotty rating, which is tech and science and the technology of the this show. You know, in this one, it's going to be like the Genesis thing and stuff.
Yeah.
There's a dog going crazy somewhere.
Okay.
On my end, anyway. We have the Uhura rating, which is how well it's written, and we have the 7 of 9 rating because she's the most beautiful woman that's ever lived, and it's about the visuals. How does the film look? What's it look like? What's the style of the film?
Okay, that's right.
There we go. And then on that, we have the final. We have the Roddenberry rating, which is the overall score. All those scores put together, divided by 4, divided by themselves. We've already done the motion picture. And I rated that at 2.57 was my Roddenberry rating, and you rated it at 2.12. So it didn't massively score well, but I scored it a little bit better than yours. What did I score it better on? Basically, just the Chekhov rating. I said the values, Star Trek values, are a little bit higher than you. Other than that, no. So
that's right.
The Wrath of Khan.
The Wrath of Khan, we say. Not the Wrath. We say the Wrath. Like path. If you're in North, if you're Northern, you know, you say path and daft and stuff. Would you say Wrath or would you say Wrath?
It's the Wrath of Khan.
It's the Wrath of Khan, like, all right.
Let's kick straight off with the Kirk rating. For the motion picture, we both scored it 2. Because it's boring.
Yes.
Kirk rating for The Wrath of Khan.
For the action.
Let's throw out our scores straight away and then explain them. Right. Okay. So I'm going to tell you straight off. I've rated it 5. 5 out of 5. That's 5 chevrons if we were going to Stargate.
Yeah, so it's almost it's pretty locked, but of course you need 7 for that.
Maxed it.
What I'll rate it? I think I'd probably give it a 4 because there is a lot of action. But I know there are other Trek movies which had perhaps a little bit more action. There were quite a few scenes where they're on the bridge and they're talking to each other on their various bridges and stuff like that. But no, it had a lot of action. It was great. I think I'll give it a 4.
Okay, right. So I'm going 5 out of 5, basically because I think this has generally one. I mean, it's limited by the technology, but I'm not going to. I'm going to say that for what was available at the time, the CGI, etc. At the time, I'm going to take that into account.
Okay.
It's one of the greatest space battles at the end of that film that I've ever seen.
Nebula, yes.
Well, yeah, it's been repeated a million times.
It has.
It's genuinely tense. It's genuinely like, kill him, shoot, raise the shields, you bloody idiot. Which we'll discuss that in a bit when we talk about logic and stuff. It's again, it just. I think it was just something we hadn't quite seen before. It's it's just clever. You've got the whole bit at the end as well with Spock sacrificing himself, which is
Yes.
again, it's one of those things that's been done a million times before, but at the time was sort of like they've killed the main character, and
I think
obviously we didn't know about the search for Spock at that point, so it was like, I
I
remember watching
think a
the first time going,
factor I think a factor about this film, which also makes it even better, is going back to the comparison from the first movie, where the pacing
"Hmm,
was so different. The feel of the whole of the first Trek movie was so different that this made a good film even better based
hmm,
on the standards of the first movie, and also also brought back a lot of the remembrance of all the best episodes of classic Trek. We even
hmm,
had a classic character return, and to get that all back with the with the actual cast and the actors and the characters are much older, and how they're starting to sort of think about middle age and what they've done and what they've achieved. I think that's another factor which gave it a really good sort of
hmm."
benefit. And as you say, the action factor was a very good one. So
Yeah.
I think that's one of its benefits.
I actually think this film it remembered to be a Star Trek film
Yeah,
as well, whereas the first one was trying to be Space Odyssey 2001: Space Odyssey,
it
something
it, it
more.
was it was. Um, this goes back to some of the modern iterations where people try to make Star Trek, but they just don't get it. The
Mhm.
people who made the Wrath of Khan, they got it. They know what it
Yeah,
was. It's always hard to define what it is that makes
yeah,
Star Trek. The same as any franchise, if you're a big fan, the fans know what gets it, what makes it. And a
mm.
lot of these things don't. But no, they really did get it right. And
Yeah, they had the right balance in this
it
between the
has exactly the
action, the
right balance.
story,
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
it had a story that was genuinely, sort of believable
Yeah.
as well, in that you can completely understand that from his character that Khan would completely blame Kirk, even though it wasn't really Kirk's fault.
No,
He 100% blamed him. And like you said, like you never came back and checked on us. And it's like, well, yeah, why didn't nobody go back and check on him? So
yeah.
think, and why didn't nobody check that they were all right? That
They
was where
did
that's where
speculate
the
about
the
returning
ending.
back. They did speculate going back to SETI Alpha 5 in the original episode, but it obviously never happened. And then there was this big
Mm.
solar flare or whatever it was that caused SETI Alpha 5
Yeah, and
to
it
spiral
destroyed
down.
City Alpha 6 and
For
knocked it
yeah,
out of orbit or
sorry,
something.
yeah, whatever SETI Alpha, whatever it was. Yeah,
Um, but yeah, so well, let's talk about that a little bit, because in the next section we've got Spock rating, which
right.
is logic.
Okay.
Um, I struggled with this a little bit because I have two big problems with the logic of the movie.
Okay.
One, the SETI Alpha 5 moving. Uh, that's not really, but it doesn't make sense that when the Grissom arrived, they didn't know that, because they'd have star charts and they'd have the planets. When they turned up, they would go, "That planet's moved. There's
Yes,
one less than there was before."
that's
That,
right. Because
and
they said a SETI,
yeah,
SETI Alpha
sorry.
6 was apparently exploded. It didn't actually elaborate how and why it exploded. And as you say, they would have been able to plot chart for this SETI Alpha system. Oh,
Mm,
we reached our. Hang on a minute. There's one planet less than in our records, and it
mhm,
wasn't picked up at all. And
yeah,
SETI Alpha 5 was in a different position, as you say. So yeah, that doesn't exactly follow
yeah.
logic.
It is a
But
plan. It is a system that had been surveyed before,
yes,
because the Enterprise had been there when they dropped them off.
that's right.
So yeah, so that was a bit of a plot hole, but not massive. It's just an error.
Yeah,
Um, we mentioned last week when we were talking about Chekhov. Chekhov shouldn't have recognised Khan.
he wasn't in the episode.
He wasn't in the
He
episode,
wasn't. Yeah.
unless obviously he might have seen photos or read the report or whatever. But it was a little bit of a surprise when he recognised the Botany Bay, but he could have
That's
read the
right.
report. It would have been. It
It
probably would
could
have been
have
quite
been. I
famous.
mean, the real life is that the Chekhov didn't start on the show until series 2 or season 2, and of course, the first kind of episode was in season 1. Some people have said that maybe he was just mooching around the cargo bays, or just what I
He
mean.
could
He's
have
going to
been.
be doing anything, and we just didn't see him.
Big crew,
Um,
big crew
but
could have been.
you know what I mean. So
So, yeah, or like you said, it's in the reports or whatever. So again, not a major problem. From a logic of the episode, though, I actually do question whether the Federation would have ever developed the Genesis torpedo.
Yeah, it was pretty dangerous.
I mean, it's a horrendously dangerous weapon.
Yeah.
I can completely understand the benefits to it. You can terraform a planet instantly.
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean,
Um,
in principle, it's a very, very as an entity of science, then the Federation would be interested in creating something like that because they're always expanding.
mhm.
And of course, in Star Trek, you've had planets which are being terraformed the normal way, which takes decades and decades. And this thing, like, just fires a thing, bang, 10 minutes later, you've got a Class M planet. It's
Yeah.
but as you say, it was also, it was quite early in its project. It was they had different phases of it. They had one where they did the phase which was underground, which we saw with Carol Marcus, and then of course, but when the missile was fired at the end of Star Trek of Star Trek 2, because of the it's on the transporter pad or whatever, maybe it wasn't properly configured, which is why it's all like when it actually
Well, it
hit them.
didn't. It wasn't a planet either, was it? It was actually a nebula. Didn't it launch fire into a nebula?
But it. Oh, I don't know actually.
Well, the nebula was then turned into a planet. I think is the.
Oh, do you know what? I've never thought. I assumed that it was a planet in the nebula. But
Well,
you
either
might
way,
be right.
there wasn't
I
a
don't know.
star. That was another problem. There was no. Well, there shouldn't have been a star, even though stars do exist in nebulae.
That's what I was going to say. You can get stars in nebulas,
but
can't you?
the torpedo was transported off to save the ship. It
Right.
wasn't beamed. They didn't say it was beamed to a planet or anything. They just said it was beamed away, and then they tried to leg it.
Yeah.
And they just about escaped, didn't they? Before
That's right.
it went
Before
off.
the explosion. Yeah, it went off. You're
So
right. Yeah, I'd
you
been thought
don't
about that.
see a planet. So my assumption was always that the planet was created by the Genesis weapon.
Wasn't it an
Even though
asteroid?
I'm not 100% certain that makes sense either. So that's, again, if we've got a logic point of view, I think I don't know if they just didn't bother.
Regular One, the
Mutagenic?
planet. Regular One.
Yeah.
Wasn't Regular One that asteroid that was orbiting? Wasn't that what became the Genesis planet?
That would make sense. So it would be the object they were on. So they beamed it down, and maybe it was just that it was beamed down close enough.
That's what I think. I think it might have been
to
that.
work.
Although I don't know why about the nebula. I don't know.
They just don't say in the film.
No, they don't.
What they did. That would have been really easy, just go beam it down to the planet's surface and then leg it. But they don't. But I suppose it would have took away from the thing of the movie, kind of too much
pacing
detail.
and all that sort of stuff.
But also when it detonated, maybe you could have seen it. But I suppose again that was because it was done from a distance, so that you see the Enterprise.
You do see what looks like a planet forming, and like I said, I think that was Regular One.
Well, you see the nebula sort of disappear. Don't you?
Yeah, but then after that, you see a scene of a planet that looks like it's in its early stages.
Yeah, that's why I always wondered if it was the nebula.
I don't know. That's a very good question. I can see where you're coming from, but as you say, it was never very clear. So
I suppose in my brain, that's how planets actually do form, though. But
over a much longer period of time.
Nebula.
Yes.
So I suppose that's maybe where I've always got it from. But so I've given it a 4 out of 5 for logic, just because I think there are those couple of issues, and a positive. The whole thing with Khan wanting the revenge, and actually the way that the story developed is logical. There's no major problems with the way the story's written for me, and even down to I think I'm being a bit forgiving, because even down to sort of the way they captured the Grissom, they don't explain it. It just happened, and you're like, where's the security team on this ship? Yeah. And the fact that Kirk doesn't raise the shields when the Grissom's approaching doesn't really make sense. Stanley agrees with you there that it was the Regulus planet. I think it wasn't. I don't think it was a planet. It was an asteroid.
It was an asteroid or planetoid or whatever the term is, but it was it was a moon. I think it was like a big moon or something. I suppose for my rating, obviously we talked about this, but I suppose really out of 5. I'll just give it a 3, similar to you.
Okay.
Like I said, there were some things. I think that the Chekhov thing, it wasn't a big deal, but it does really stand out a mile that we needed to never met Khan. And obviously, like I said, I think the Genesis device, like you said, it was a bit of a dodgy thing in logic, really. So
Well, when we talk about the Chekhov rating, then we're smashing through these this week because it's such a bloody good film. There,
that's right.
I'm going to straight off the bat say with the Chekhov rating, I'm giving it a 3 for Star Trek values.
Values. This is the values one. Okay.
I don't think the Federation would develop the Genesis weapon or the Genesis device because I think they would consider that to be way too dangerous. I don't think they would ever allow them to do it. Not to the extreme, because you remember this weapon obliterates everything in its path. Because I mean that's what they're looking for. They're looking for a planet, and it can't even have microbes on it.
Yeah, nothing at all. Completely dormant.
So I love the way they explain that because they're saying like we would create this weapon because we're only going to use it for this, and we're going to be very careful. Not even microbes can be on the thing. So it's fine, but I just don't. I can't see the Federation ever given permission for this.
I'm going to slightly disagree for the simple reason that there are so many planets out there. There are so many planets out there which don't have any life at all, and space is big. And if you've got all these ships that can go to solar systems all over the place within a very short time, there's going to be a lot more of places which are, from what they gather, completely dormant of life or any chances of life. And I think if they had more of time to actually conduct experiments, refine it, get it a bit more stable and a bit more in a way where they've got more control and there's less side effects and negativity from it. So I would probably give the values slightly higher than you, I think. So you gave 3.
Yeah,
I would give a 4, I think, just slightly higher.
Okay.
Only because of the size of space and how many dormant planets are out there.
You make a good point, and I say the guys in the comments make the same point. Really, it wasn't designed as a weapon; it's a tool.
Yeah.
And the Federation, like you said, is growing so quickly. They need real estate.
Yes,
and that's what
they do. Yeah.
This device does. For me, like I say, I just think that there's so many other technologies that the Federation wouldn't develop because they considered it the long-term effects sort of things.
Yes.
They put themselves at a disadvantage regularly in the Federation that I don't think they personally would have done. I don't think such a device meets the Federation's values, which is.
I appreciate that. Yeah. I appreciate that.
You're allowed to disagree with me. I give you permission.
Only slightly, just a slightly different perspective.
Yeah, to a point. I'll tell you when you go too far. But like I say, I have no other issues with the values. I just don't think I don't think it expresses the Star Trek's values particularly. Other than I'm changing my mind a little bit. Spock at the end, with the way he sacrifices himself, is Star Trek values and actually Vulcan values. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one.
Yeah, or the one.
So maybe I'm being a bit mean.
Well, you're not. It's not cast in stone. You can always refine your score.
I think you guys have convinced me, and I'm going to give it a 4 as well, which means I need to do my math again at the end. But never mind. You've convinced me. I've changed my mind.
Okay.
Which I'm also allowed to do. Right. John Campbell. I love the Ferengi Genesis device without a paywall. Did you see that in Lower Decks? It was good. When the Klingons heard about it, though, they immediately went.
Well, that was a fact. It was a dangerous thing. Obviously, the next movie does focus on that as well.
Yeah.
So that's an
well, when we're going to talk about
another time
in the next film. Yeah.
Sure.
Humor.
Humor.
The Bones rating.
There was. I don't think humor was that prevalent in this movie. The same as the first movie. I would say that the humor for both is similar. I'm trying to think of some funny moments from Star Trek 2, which really made me think, "Oh, this is funny."
To be honest, I don't think there is any.
No, nothing's coming to mind thinking about it straight off.
I've given this a 2 just because there's a few bits
Like,
in it
aren't you
that are
dead at the end of the Kobayashi Maru, where I think is it McCoy says to Spock, "Aren't you dead?" Because they're doing the
yeah.
practice of the Kobe, and that was a funny thing to say. Sorry,
Mhm.
Karen, we'll say what you're going to say about it. Mine's quite low.
No, I was gonna say that's a good point. And Kobayashi Maru in this film.
Kobayashi Maru's at the beginning of it, yeah.
So's Kirstie Alley in this one.
Kirstie Allen's in it, yeah.
Oh, I don't know. My
Yeah.
brain's had a melt. I've forgotten that bit. So
Yeah.
yeah, that is a good bit. Of course, because he's on about how the no-win situations, and then that comes back in later, isn't it?
Later on,
When
it goes full circle.
of course, she's
Yeah,
in the when she does the con, but she's down there with him.
that's right.
Best uniforms in this film, by the way. I mean, they upgraded the uniforms.
Monster
from the first movie.
Maroons, the
Brilliant.
Monster Maroons. There
Yeah.
is an inadvertently funny bit in this movie, and it's
Hmm.
always awkward. And everybody, do you know which? Before I say it, do you know
Go
what
on.
I'm talking about? What is it? Okay, it is Scotty playing the bagpipes at the end when, yeah, that's a bit.
With half a finger.
Yeah, exactly, because he's got a finger missing. Yeah, that's a bit. I don't know whether that can be classed as a point. I don't think it can because it's against the actual humour of the movie.
I've given this a 2 because I think there are a couple of bits in it that are funny but not ha funny, or they're light. You know what I mean? There's a few bits with when, for example, like when Kirk's on the thing and then Spock tells him we're ready to go, and the son goes, "I thought you said it was going to be days," and he goes, "No, it's if you think that people are listening," but it's not funny, but it's light.
Nice. And it's a positive thing, but it's not like, that was so funny.
No,
I would
it's
probably
not.
give it a 2 as well.
There isn't really any humour in this film.
No, I'll give it a 2 as well. I know we get matching a lot of our scores, but when you asked the question, I really had to think about it. There's hardly any funny scenes at all.
No, it's just not. That's not what the film was about.
No.
Okay, so the Scotty rating, which is the technology, the science that we see in the movie. So we have to really look at the con. It's the Genesis device, isn't it?
I was going to say that was the technology of the movie, obviously.
So we talked about the morals of the technology. Now let's think about the actual science. How the bloody hell did that weapon work?
Protomatter. I've told you, there we are. That's it. That's all you need to know. It's protomatter.
You can't just make up a word and go.
They did.
That's it.
They did.
Right. So, but this thing held all the genetic information. So plants started to grow immediately.
Yeah. And how was it deployed in every single species? Or no, it was just plants, wasn't it?
I think it was just plants, and then you have to deposit.
It wasn't animals,
life
was it?
forms, but it's just.
Mind you, in the next movie, we do see an evolution. We do see life forms which are evolving.
So there must be life. Oh no, because the life was evolving. It was.
Oh no, it was on the torpedo.
Germs on their feet and
stuff.
It was
on the torpedo. Sorry, you're right. Yeah.
It was like it was bacteria that was becoming.
Yeah.
But it was just evolving very, very fast. But plants were growing and stuff, and that didn't come. And water was being created. You can actually see lakes growing. And maybe don't think there's big a problem with that though, because it's almost like replica. It is actually just fusing hydrogen and oxygen. So maybe I could get away with that. But genetic information was somehow being. So it made mountains and stuff.
Well, there was a great simulation it was one of the first CGI simulations of the actual Genesis project, and you see barren moon, and it starts to, as you say, you see like mountains are forming, atmospheres forming, and it becomes a whole planet in its own perspective. But as you say, apart from them using protomatter,
which was actually, wasn't that illegal? Wasn't that the thing they said that, like, why did you, it's so unstable? Oh, no, just very, really, really unstable, wasn't it? And that was what caused the problem in the movie.
Wasn't it illegal? Why does that sound familiar when it's illegal?
David had to admit, didn't he, said, I had to cut corners. Like John just said, he had to cut corners to get it to work. But one of the things I think he said he had to use was protomatter, if I remember right. And that was how he he was able to get around it, but that was what caused the problem. But that's what he admitted in the third one, isn't it? When everything started to break, basically. When
That's right. He was cutting corners, and that's why it all went wrong. That's why it wasn't actually that stable in the first place. Because
but it planets building, water, lakes forming, oceans forming, plants start to grow instantly.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, it didn't make any logical sense to me. It's basically like a massive replicator. But why was it a blast with a shockwave? And it just didn't make any sense to me.
And also, of course, one thing you've got to remember is at the end of the film, we do see the new Genesis planet with all the plants and trees and jungles and things like that. So as you say, but yeah, it was only just plants. What was this animal supposed to be moved?
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Supposed to be transported afterwards. It was like
that makes
sense.
It
was the germs and the bacteria that we saw.
Yeah, interesting.
The Vulcan.
Yeah,
I just don't think the technology for me made any sense at all from the Genesis point of view. So it's not points down for me. But everything else I thought was, again, stunning. I love the idea of the Genesis device.
Yeah,
I just don't think practically I can't see.
It's a practicality you've got an issue with, isn't it?
Yeah,
exactly.
It's magic, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
So other technology in Star Trek, like the replicators and things, I can understand how that is possible. It's taking atoms and putting them together and using an energy field or whatever. But
that's right.
That I don't get. But then I see things like I love the Grissom. It's one of my favorite starships. I love that ship with the over the top of it. Brilliant. I love the rest of the technology, like the warp drive and having to fix the warp drive because the crystals and things, all that technology and stuff, I think was great. So I've given it a 3, just because all the other tech I thought was great. I just don't understand the Genesis.
I'm a huge fan of Star Trek starships, and as you say, the Grissom was the Reliant. Grissom was the Oberth class in Star Trek 3. That's what I get mixed up with.
Oh,
Grissom is you're always about the Reliant. Sorry,
I wanted to call it the Reliant class.
Yeah. Which is it's a Miranda class.
The one with the hole in it.
Yeah, it's a Miranda class.
I can't believe nobody in
there. Don't worry, that's fine. Because I quite
nobody in the comments has
jumped
on that. I normally get jumped on when I make a mistake.
All right, but the Miranda was such a lovely design. It was the first non-Enterprise-looking ship we'd ever seen in Star Trek, which looks like the Enterprise, which wasn't. And for the technological side of things, I would have to give the film a 4 just because of the Reliant. It was such a cool-looking ship.
It's one of my
stayed around for decades in Star Trek. And that's a big thumbs up for me. So
and the configuration was copied as well. Many times, there's even a TNG style and everything. And lovely design. I always love that. If you're going to say, I mean, the Enterprise A is my favorite Enterprise probably, and then the Reliant is the E maybe. The E's beautiful. But I think the A might be my favorite starship.
A is very similar to. Why do you like A more than say the original 1701?
It just looks sleeker. I just think it's a nicer design. It's cleaner. It looks more like a real starship, if that makes sense. But it looks like it's doing 1,000,000 miles an hour stood still.
Okay.
But I just think it was. Yeah, like say where the Bussard ram scoops are, in the Enterprise, the A had the round domes with the circle things going around, but in the Enterprise A, it was just more like those slits sort of thing, which made it look.
I didn't notice that. Do you know? I never noticed much of a difference between the Enterprise 1701 movie and the Enterprise A. I thought they were pretty much bulk standard.
Sorry, the A is the second class, which is exactly the same. Sorry, the 1701 refit then. So the total refit is the first, which is the Enterprise we see in the movie.
Yeah,
the complete refit.
That's right. That's what I'm saying. The refit.
Constitution class complete refit.
They're called Constitution 2, I think it's called.
The Constitution 2 is actually the vessel in Picard was the Constitution 2.
That's Constitution 3 or Neo Constitution.
2, isn't it? I think
3.
You're on with the ships tonight. I'll tell you what. I'm going to look at.
It is. It's also known as a Neo Constitution, the Picard's.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's interesting. But anyway, so go back. The Reliant was such a good ship, and I'm glad that it featured in Next Generation, DS9. I don't know if he saw it in Voyager. I don't know if he saw it in Voyager. Yeah.
Right. Memory Alpha says you're wrong.
What's
That the
that?
Constitution 2. Oh no, it says I'm wrong. That the Constitution 2 class is the heavy cruiser, is the refit
That's right.
Constitution.
Yeah.
There you go. I used to be so good on all this stuff, but over the years, over the last 10 years or
Well,
so,
you've got a life, mate. You've probably got a life. It's like
well,
me.
also,
Like,
I don't love Star Trek as much as I used to.
oh well, there's lots of other stuff to watch, like
I
a
used to be a
show with a big
massive Trekkie.
round disc with yeah, that's something
Yeah.
else to focus
Oh,
on.
I'll tell you what, I used to know and I probably can still pull bits of information. You know, like when they had the Star Trek Next Generation technical manual for the Enterprise D.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
knew that thing backwards.
And I used to play Star Trek: The Quiz Show. Did you ever play that with John
No, I
Delancey?
didn't know.
Oh, it was great, and it was like it was asked all these questions, and I used
Hmm.
to get most of them right. And he used to say, "I'm almost impressed" at the end of the game. It was really good. That was really good.
Yes.
That.
Rocco was just saying here that he likes the Enterprise C. Was that the
No,
ambassador class?
no, that's my least favorite Enterprise.
I don't like it.
Enterprise
It's
C.
like
No,
you know
I
they've
don't
called
like
the
the
Enterprise
deflector
D the
dish.
fat one.
Yeah,
I think the C looked fat. It's all opinion though. I mean, but it looked chunky to me. I never
I
liked it.
quite like the F actually, even though I haven't seen much of it really. I thought the F looked quite cool.
Yeah, I love the Odyssey class anyway. But
Yeah,
Odyssey, is that right?
Odyssey, yeah.
I'm questioning myself with everything here. But yeah, so 4. Yeah, but I know we could talk starships all night. But I
Sorry,
do.
yeah, we
run
must
by
move
about
on, but
42.
yes.
We've only got 15 minutes.
No, that's fine.
We'll do an episode just talking about ships. Maybe
I'm
next
up
time.
for that. I'll
We'll
be
do
right
that.
there if you're up to doing
I'll
that.
get all the photos up and everything. If you guys want us to
Yeah,
do
yeah.
that,
I'll just tell you about it without even looking up. I'm
Yeah.
so sad about shit.
Stanley's thrown in there. You've already corrected us, but yeah, the Grissom is from the Search for Spock. 100% right. I can't believe I made that mistake, but I know I got it from somewhere. I watched the Search for Spock yesterday, so I must have just stuck in my brain.
I love that movie.
I'm ahead because I'm thinking about the next video really. Anyway, the Uhura rating for writing.
Yeah, it's well written. It's a well written movie.
I've gone 5 out of 5. I think
Yeah.
there is no issues with the script at all, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think I'll give it the same. I mean, it is one of the most popular Star Trek movies. Everything about the actual characterization, the ideas. All right, some of the ideas we've already talked about, which might be a little bit of a stretch, but for what it is still one of the most successful and most well-liked Star Trek movies ever after 13 movies. So yeah, writing-wise, it's going to be high up there.
Yeah, some of the writings is iconic though. I mean, it's like that. Even people aren't Star Trek fans know when Spock is against the glass.
Yeah.
And then, Kirk puts his hands up against you are and always will be my friend. That's
and how they tried to replicate it with the Star Trek Into Darkness, which we'll be talking about at some point in the future, where okay, I won't even go there.
Yeah. It was I'm not going to be very kind about that movie at times, even though I do really, really like bits of it.
Yeah,
I really like The Vengeance.
I don't hate any Trek movie. I mean, they obviously
there are bits of some Trek movies I dislike, but
Uhura's dancing in Star Trek 5 wasn't very good.
There are bits in Star Trek 5 that are terrible, but there are bits in Star Trek 5 that are bloody brilliant as well. So we won't be mean to it. But anyway,
yeah,
the visuals. I have absolutely no issue with any of the visuals in this movie.
5.
Yeah. As well. I just think it's an absolutely stunning looking movie, and I think
it's amazing, amazing. It's 41 years old,
which is astonishing.
and the music is fantastic. This is the first. It wasn't Jerry Goldsmith? Who was James Horner? James Horner did the music, and the music was absolutely fantastic, with the visuals as well. With the ship scenes in the oh god, no, it's really, really good visually. You can't fault it.
No, not at all. Right, 10, 16, 20, 27 divided by 11 equals 3.85. I've scored this somehow slightly higher than you. How have I done that?
Oh, okay. I thought ours are pretty much.
Oh yeah, the Spock rating. It was just the Spock rating. You did differently. 3.85. So my Roddenberry rating for this movie is a solid 4 out of 5. Yours is 3.85 out
Wow.
of 5, which
It's not
is
bad though, compared to what was it like last week?
2.12 and
Okay.
2.5.
Okay.
So it's done better.
Yes.
So,
That's better.
got 2 questions to end out on. For one, I think it was Bob said earlier, I was never worried. Star Trek isn't science fiction, it's merely pop sci-fi. My instinct there was, of course it isn't science fiction. What are you on about? But does Bob actually have a point? Because a lot of Star Trek uses theories and things that are popular at the time and then runs with it and does a story about it. So this movie, terraforming, was something that was being thought about seriously as a new science. We could terraform Mars. No, we can't. It hasn't got a magnetic field. You can terraform it all you like. Solar winds will blow it away. I'm sorry, it just will. But terraforming was, and that's probably where this movie came from. Terraforming is the thing. Let's do a weapon that does it instantly. TNG was particularly did this a lot, that they would do theories in science and they would run with it and do an episode, and then all the way through, I'm not quite sure they've understood the
Yeah, they, as you say, I mean, the fact is that although they had some scientific advisors and consultants involved, some of the ideas were they've heard about something. What can we do in a sci-fi premise?
Yeah.
And some of these ideas worked better than others. Going back to this movie, of course, like I said, the Genesis ultimate terraforming in click a finger, and that's it. You've got a brand new planet with the right amount of temperature, the right amount of water, the right, that is more sort of fantasy, I think, than science fiction in many ways. It's probably one of the, although the film still works so well, it's probably one of the most negative aspects of it from a scientific background. I mean, I'm not a scientist, but like I said, you have to start thinking about, this would never ever happen. But then I suppose you could say that about,
Well, I've lost Mike there for a second. I think he's going to say, though, that you can say that about a lot of science nowadays, that it's just that it's beyond our ability to comprehend. As you talked to somebody 200 years ago and explained to them the microwave.
Hopefully at some point. Yeah. Okay. It's possible in the future there might be some new kind of faster than light travel. In the end, you've got to get the right balance. I mean, this is why some people just don't like science fiction, because they say, "Well, this is ridiculous," and why would they do that? And I think you've got to be quite open-minded to watch science fiction to a degree. You've got to think, well, look, okay, it's probably not going to happen, but it might do at some point.
You explain a mobile phone to somebody 40 years ago, and they'll shoot you for being a witch.
Yeah,
it's just like,
I mean. I used today. I went around to my mum's, and she was talking about poetry and stuff like that. And I just opened up Chat GPT and I just said, "Oh, make a poem about whatever it was." And literally, in about 5 seconds, it works it out. And she's terrified of the future. She's one of those people that looks to the past than to the future. I'm fascinated with all that. I'm a bit scared about it because this is becoming science fact.
Yeah.
But like I said, science fiction, although it gets a lot of stuff wrong, can get stuff right as well. That's the way I say.
Well, I mean, with Star Trek, I think they just go with some things that are popular. I mean, because when quantum stuff, because of Stephen Hawking, so quantum engineering and quantum mechanics started to get into the popular culture, so everything was quantum for a bit. And Star Trek was to blame for that a little bit. And then nanites were theorized.
So everything was micro robots and stuff.
Yeah. So they've been guilty of that. So I do think it's, but I do think all science fiction does that to a degree, because it is fiction as well.
Yeah.
It's not science fact. It's not a documentary. It's not Galaxy Quest. It's definitely a documentary because it's true. It's science fiction. So there is an element of fiction there. But yeah, I don't think it's an unfair comment, Bob. I think it's a little bit unfair, but not totally.
It's interesting to talk about it, though. I mean, there's a fair enough. Like I said, that question is fair enough. But
I mean, The Expanse or something like that is more science fiction. You could argue more sciencey, but it's a little bit more science.
What about like Foundation. That's another one which is quite heavy going. But
There's a
then
lot of
that's more
spiritualism and
it's
stuff
more
in
like
that.
fantasy, isn't it? It's not quite yeah.
I'd say it is science fiction as well, but there's a lot of spirituality and things like that in there. So it's there's a lot of that going on, but yeah, it's not a straight up sci-fi. I mean, there really you can argue something like The Martian or something is the only thing that's closer to science fiction, but it could be science reality in just like 20 years.
Martian was a very, very well put together film. But as you
Yeah,
say, it
beautifully
was
put
much
together.
more based on science facts or closer to what could be a fact than some of the stuff in Star
Yeah,
Trek.
made a couple of mistakes, but nothing major. The other question I'm going to ask them is going back to Star Trek: The Wrath of Khan.
Okay.
Is this the best of the Star Trek movies?
For me, no. Only because, first of all, I've seen it so many times, and also because there's a lot of movies out there with different casts and stuff like that. I think, generally speaking, it is the best of the Star Trek movies. But I think on an individual basis, I just happen to like some of the others. Just personally, just something about them clicked with me more than this movie. But how about you? I mean, what do you think about that?
I think it's probably the most iconic of all the films. I think it's the film that non-Trekkies know
Accessible.
the best of.
Although apparently Star Trek 4 was quite accessible as well when we get to
Yeah,
that.
I think The Voyage Home is
That's pretty accessible.
I think there's bits of this film. I think this is Star Trek at its best. But I do think there's a trilogy of movies here for me, with these three films are the best we got out of Star Trek, I think. With this, The Search for Spock and The Voyage Home, which were always conceived as three films. They run off each other really nicely. I don't think we've ever had better. The Wrath of Khan is definitely up there. Conversation. I couldn't. I'm not going to say it's the best of them, but when it's Star Trek at its best. It's these three films that, and you can tell that because they've emulated them so many times and copied them so many times, and not just. I mean, Star Trek itself, Paramount itself has copied. I think we discussed it last week. Didn't we? The Wrath of Khan has been copied about 4 times.
Yeah.
Really, you can argue Star Trek Nemesis is really just a copy of The Wrath of Khan. They just swapped Khan for a genetic engineered version of himself. And
I I hadn't really thought about that, but I think that's a fair enough parallel. Actually, that observation does make sense. That there's a character. Yeah.
The battle at the end are very similar.
Yeah.
The battle in the Nebula has been replicated several times. It's like, but not just by Star Trek. Other films you watch. This is a little familiar, but I mean, it's such a basic premise, though, isn't it? Of revenge. Who doesn't like a good revenge plot?
Well, what I would say is the problem with science fiction is if you've seen as much as I have, and you probably have as well, in the end, you are going to watch things and think, "Oh, I saw an episode of Stargate that had that exact similar storyline."
Well,
I can think of, and it's just the nature of the fact that there's only a limitation to how many basic stories are out there, but people have their own slant, their own way of making it slightly different, and that's just the nature of the genre. I think
somebody actually on Twitter the other day said that one of the Brad Wright's episodes of Stargate, where the SG-1 is plugged into a it's like
the gatekeeper, the Dwight Schultz
virtual reality anyway.
Yeah.
They're plugged into virtual, and he said, "Oh, it's so ahead of its time," and somebody else went, "No, that story's been done before," and they were getting quite agitated. And actually, Brad Wright even said, "I'm not going to pretend that's not original. We might have done something a little bit original with it, but it's been done before." And I had to point out that actually there was a book in 1946 written about how somebody got plugged into virtual reality. And the very early computers were just being sort of theorized, and somebody wrote this book. So it's not an original story. Then you got like Lawnmower Man from the late 80s, early 90s.
Lawnmower Man, that's another example.
The same thing. So, but Brad even had to correct this guy. And he's like, it was just a big fan. He just loved Stargate, and I was just like saying, like, it's so ahead of his time, which it was.
There was a Stargate Star Trek parallel. The one I always think about is it was both of them involved a space race, and Voyager had Kim and Paris, and they had to have a space race. And then on Stargate, they had a space race as well. I can't remember who was in it, but I think an actor who was actually appeared in Star Trek was in that episode as well. And those two episodes were very, very similar. And I seem to remember them. They're both being on at a similar time as well, around about 1998, 99, near the end of Voyager season. No, it would have been 2001. And Stargate then was probably in about season 5, season 6. And both the episodes, it was like they both literally copied it off each other. So you always wonder whether it's just a coincidence or whether one was referenced from the other one.
The novel I was talking about, John, just in case you're interested, it's not a Philip K. Dick story. It was called Pygmalion Spectacles. There's a character, there's a professor who invented a pair of goggles that gave you sight, sound, smell, and basically absorbed you into virtual reality. It's like an Oculus, but with smell.
Oh, okay.
And it was written in 1935 by Stanley Weinbaum.
Sounds like a visor kind of thing for the eyes or something.
So it's astonishing. But yeah, no, I would agree with you. Basically, that's. Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, I suppose we will wrap things up soon. But I will say that though that because it's one thing we don't actually mention is that, but I think James Horner is one of the best musicians in the Star Trek. I like Dennis McCarthy from the Star Trek Next Generation era. I like some of his music, and he did Generations, and of course Jerry Goldsmith. But I think James Horner he did this one and The Search for Spock. I don't know whether he did the music for The Voyage Home. I think he might have done, actually. I can't remember. But that was going back to the trilogy of these three films. I think that's one thing that also made the films so much more significant. It's just the musical scores were so nice.
That then followed through into TNG, which is one of the reasons I think TNG was just lovely, because the music.
I love the music.
Style and everything was very similar. And what was the film? Because we saw the TNG's theme tune. We actually see in one of the movies, don't we? I can't remember which one it is now. It's in one of the Kirk movies first. Might be Undiscovered Country.
Oh,
no, Undiscovered Country was after TNG.
What, you mean the actual theme tune?
Yeah, the actual score for.
That's the motion picture. The motion picture did it first, and then the Next Generation took it in 1987 from obviously Jerry Goldsmith, which was always strange.
Been a long road. That's the best. That's the best one, obviously.
That's one
thing.
Always.
Time. But my time is finally here. My Christmas song comes out tomorrow, guys, by the way, so don't forget. So if you want to listen to me sing,
we should do a duet. We should get the actual lyrics and to sing that bloody song, that Faith of the Heart song. That'd be funny.
There we go. We'll do that. I've actually done 2 songs now. I enjoyed doing so tomorrow comes the 12 Days of Stargate.
Oh, okay. Tell me about this.
I'll tell you the first line is, on the first day of Stargate, Brad Wright gave to me, that time Sam blew up a star. On the second day of Stargate, Brad Wright gave to me 2 Jack O'Neills, and that time Sam blew up a star. And that's all I'm getting.
Oh, God.
But it goes on, and there's 12.
You should actually mix in some music, do it properly.
I have done.
That might be really funny.
I have done.
Oh, okay.
I'll tell you what. I'll play you a clip. I can play a clip.
Okay. That's the way.
But then I've also done a Jingle Bells version. It's the ultimate sci-fi Jingle Bells song, right?
Okay.
And it starts with I basically say, reality TV, it's not for me. I'd much rather watch a sci-fi, and then it goes on like that. So
yeah, okay.
Instead of Jingle Bells, it's SG-1, Atlantis, Stargate Universe.
But you know the guy I've talked about before who sings, he's made the lyrics for all the Star Trek and Stargate series.
Yeah.
And I don't. Oh, I'll have to send you a link to those because they're hilarious. This guy, he just makes up the lyrics to the Next Generation theme or SG-1 or Atlantis, and They're very, very funny to watch, and we have featured on that on my channel quite a few times.
I can't play it.
Oh, why
It
not?
won't play.
Oh,
I haven't got it. I've got it on Patreon. I can play it on Patreon.
okay.
Oh, my mate's just said he doesn't want to do beers tonight, so I'm not in a rush now. I was supposed to be rushing out to meet him, and he's just said he doesn't want to go.
Oh, what have you said? Is it because of what we've been saying? Have you sort of like?
No, he's literally just said he's only just got back from work, I think. So,
All right.
where is it? Come on, I want to play it now that I've.
But now you don't have to rush. You can look. You can take your time finding it. You see.
Yeah, memberships. No.
Oh, hang on. Maybe we can find this guy that does the songs. Okay.
Right, here we go. 12 Days of Stargate. I'm going to go rosy cheeked. Like a voice of an angel. Voice of an angel, sir. That's all you're getting.
Oh, blimey. That's good. So how did you
did it.
Did you do it all yourself then?
Yeah.
Oh, you're quite good. You're quite a dab hand at all that sort of stuff then.
Matt had to teach me a little bit.
I've done a bit of mixing myself, but yeah, okay. Well, we'll look forward. Are you going to at the end of the obviously when
that's out tomorrow because it's 12 days until Christmas tomorrow, and then the Jingle Bells one will come out next week.
Okay. Are you going to try and release this as a sort of proper song and
I'm going to release it. It's going to be on Apple, and I will be number one. Fuck you, Mariah Carey.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I'm not doing that. I'm just but it's a fun little silly little thing just for you guys. I put it on Patreon yesterday, and Dave Git immediately he messaged back going, my dog won't stop barking, which is doubly weird because I haven't got a dog. It's just like, you bastard.
Well, on my channel, what we're going to do is we will do a Christmas message, and Martin and I are going to do a sort of Doctor Who regeneration thing. But
Cool.
we're going to do it in the style of, I won't give the spoilers if you've not seen it, but something really happened on the specials over the weekend. It's been a massive thing, but I won't going to tell you because obviously some people won't know. But what happened on the episode, we're going to try and do it with some CGI and visuals and green screen and stuff. So it'll probably look terrible, but we'll give it a go.
Yeah. I'm sure it'll be good, and I know what you're talking about now. We've already talked about it on the channel, so if anybody doesn't know, we talked about it at the live on Sunday, and halfway through the conversation we went spoilers, and 3 or 4
that's why I'm really careful not to say anything, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, somebody in the audience immediately went, thanks very much for the spoilers, dickhead. You're a bit late there, aren't you? Sorry. What did you think about? I tell you what, don't worry about spoilers. The Doctor splits into two, and David Tennant isn't dead.
Yeah.
Your thoughts? Because I thought it was stupid.
It was odd. It was a bit of a cop out, but I thought first of all, I did quite like the new guy. I thought the new guy, he had a real energy about himself, and I just thought he was pretty good. And he had and the music was great in the episode as well. And Neil Patrick Harris was in it. He was really good. But you know, it's David Tennant never seems to want to leave the series, does he? He's always sort of hanging on there. And technically now we've got 2 David Tennant sort of doctors out there. We've got the one which is human with Rose in another universe, and now we've got the 14th Doctor still alive. I don't know. I don't. Yeah. Go on.
He can just come back whenever he wants.
Although technically,
because they're just going to get if the popularity starts waning again,
he'll come back and refuel it. Yeah, he'll stoke the fire again.
There's got to be a plan for that. There's going to have to. There's a plan in there. There's got to be an episode where they're going to both be in it again. There's got to be.
Although this is the one historical fact that nobody else has actually referenced apart from me. But this episode is the episode where we actually say goodbye to the original TARDIS. Because Ncuti, he gets in the duplicate TARDIS, and Tennant keeps the original. So in the future, we'll always be seeing the copy TARDIS, not the original. Not that it's a big deal, and it's also got a jukebox as well. Apparently.
Yeah,
it was all right. It was okay.
I'm going to go with it was okay at best.
Yeah, It's
And
getting
then
more
and
fantasy
then
now.
and that talking about what was it? Bob Wood said earlier about pop culture. There was no. I mean, Doctor Who's always had a fast and loose relationship with science anyway.
Yeah.
But them just going, well, the rules of game is still in action, isn't it? So I'm just going to hit the TARDIS with a hammer, and oh look, we've got 2! Yay!
Yeah. Very fantasy.
Why?
Yeah.
No,
No
sorry.
explanation. Yeah.
The
Apparently the
rules
energy of the
play?
toy maker. I know.
Yeah.
I still liked it. I thought it was
Yeah.
good. It was all right. So,
And when they split it, I was hoping one of them would be evil. You know, I like how Superman in Superman 3 when he split,
oh,
and one of
yeah.
them got all the crap, and one of them got the thing. I was just like, why isn't one of these evil? Why?
Yeah.
Or separated it, and one of them's Danny DeVito. You know, says he's got all the crap. That would have been way better. But no.
Well, like I said, I think it was an interesting way they went. I will be watching the next series, and of course, the TARDIS has also got now a disability ramp as well. So there you go.
Yeah. I don't like Doctor Who.
I know. This is why you talked about it so long.
Great.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know. You're
I tried to like it. I loved it. Tennant first time around, and then Matt Smith, loved it. I watched it every year. I watched every episode, and then I gave up on it. And now I'm trying to watch it again now. I'm thinking, oh well, the original writer's back. Maybe I'll enjoy it. And I'm like, I'm sick to death of being, you know, like people go, I don't like being preached to, and this is woke. I'm watching this going,
I mean,
this is a bit preachy.
Yeah, I don't like to mention the W word, but it is quite prevalent these days in a lot of things, and the new Doctor Who. You know, the Davros thing. We all know about the Davros. We can't look like Davros anymore because he depicts a person with a wheelchair as being evil, which I think is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. But in the end, you know, you just have to sort of try to filter it out and watch it for what it is.
I once got punched in the dick by a guy in a wheelchair. He was evil. So,
well, that's a way to finish a show, isn't it?
Yeah, pricks come in all shapes and sizes, man. You always think, oh, that old people. Oh, isn't she lovely? Just a little diddly old person. No, old people can be twats too.
Oh yeah,
and disabled people can be twat. And anybody can be a twat. And this guy punched me in the dick, and he was a twat. So
can you elaborate? Was it something you said or what?
I was kind of caring for him. So no, it's all right. I took him out onto the motorway and wheeled him into the middle and left him there and then ran off. So it's all good, really.
It's okay. It's all right.
I got my revenge. But yeah, just see ya. But no, he wasn't very well. But he was just he was angry, so he decided to take it out on my penis. It sounded wrong, actually. That sounded right in my brain, but came out wrong.
Yeah. I wouldn't tell people too many people that story. I think they'd be giving you looking like what. It goes back to bosses and stuff like that. People you work with in environments where you know you can have some great environments, and you get one person who just doesn't fit in, and it can throw the dynamic of a working practice. And it's a real pain when you have that because you know in the end if you just work with each other, just go with it, and you know we all have issues from time to time. But you get that one person who really just is a thorn in your side and makes it difficult for everybody. It just makes the whole environment so much harder to be in and sort of like deal with. So
I've been in that place where you have a team, you just got one person that's negative. Everybody gets tensed, and everyone gets a bit like
it just changes it. It's so weird,
isn't there?
It is.
I remember I worked in an office years ago, and there's this one woman who's just such a bin. We got to a point where we wouldn't look at each other. We even though we sat next to each other, basically, if we passed each other in town centre, we'd both just look at the floor. Yeah, I don't really dislike anyone. I'm quite
he's quite easy going.
Everybody in the thing is going to be shocked by this, but I am relatively friendly most of the time. I don't but if I dislike somebody, it becomes like vengeful. I'm a sod. If I don't like you, you'll know I don't like you. And there is a thing that says I don't suffer fools.
So I'm not worried at the moment in respect to what we're doing on our channels together.
No.
We're fine.
We're good. If I really dislike you, we wouldn't have spoken more than once. But it takes a lot for me to really dislike somebody. And I find actually that if it's somebody I really dislike, it's probably because they're a bit like me.
Oh, do you think there's too much of a parallel with yourself? Sometimes. Oh, okay.
I think I'm not a big fan of my brother-in-law. Shh, don't tell anyone. No, everyone knows. He doesn't like me either. But I've always wondered if it's because we're actually quite similar, and I think we dislike the things in each other that we dislike about myself, sort of thing. We're both a bit. I'm a little bit arrogant. I try not to be, but I am. I think I know best. And
what I inadvertently do is when you meet people, and we all do this without even thinking it, you automatically evaluate them to a degree and work out what they're about and what you're going to get out of them, which we shouldn't do, but it's human nature. It's just what we do, and I think that unfortunately,
our brain works.
Yeah, and sometimes you shouldn't do that, but sometimes you just can't help it. So
But yeah, so but yeah, I was just going to say that this woman I worked with though, it got to the point where I remember one of the days she wasn't in, somebody behind me went, "You can tell somebody's not in, can't you?" And we were like, I think because
with that accent, I love the accent. You can tell what it, can't you?
Yeah.
I can't do
that. I just think it's one of those things that like you can cut the tension with a knife, but it's like a tangible tension when somebody is there and it's like
it's really strange, isn't it? It's like a sort of energy in the room, and I don't know why that is. But what's this? Oh, you got something on in 2 minutes. What's that?
Man United are playing, and we're already apparently losing 6-0.
Oh.
Dave is joking, but it's only 1 minute in, and Kane has already shot across goal and nearly missed.
Well, as long as you don't say anything about my beloved Manchester City, that's all that matters.
I didn't know you're a Manchester City.
I'm not. I'm just joking.
My finger was hovering over the edit, the remove button.
I'm not a football fan. I know you're into football. I'm not into football, but I know that there's a rivalry, isn't there? There's a rivalry, right?
Bye, Mike. Bye, Mike. You at least
before I shoot off, one thing I'll quickly show you. If you've seen the Office,
I was looking at that fella.
Do you know what it is?
It's a policeman.
No, it is the cookie jar from The Office.
Stop.
I never really watched The Office.
You never seen The Office?
I have seen it, but not.
Well, I got that for The Office.
Stop. Move away from the cookie jar.
There you go. That's my little thing to show you off. Very good. That's going to impress all your subscribers, isn't it?
I can see your advent calendar as well, which is good.
Oh, yeah, I've got a Toblerone. There we go. All right, James, thanks very much. It's been a good one. When do you fancy you coming back for the next one? We're doing about 3 or 4 weeks again, maybe.
We'll do it 3 weeks. First week of Christmas, after week of Christmas, maybe. And
yeah, we'll sort of do it around about that sort of time, don't we?
And we'll do a Starships video somewhere in between, maybe.
Yeah, okay. I'm actually free over Christmas, so if you want to do one special, different one on Starships, I'd love to do that because I'd love to talk about that.
Let's do that. Let's find a day. I actually am working most of Christmas, but I'm sure we can find something.
Yeah. Just let me know what fits in with you, and I'll go with it. That'd be great. I'll look forward to doing that. We'll do it live again.
We'll be in touch. All right then. Thank you, Mike. Guys, everybody, thanks again for getting in the audience. You've been legends.
Yeah, thank you for checking us out.
And yeah, let me just find the off button. Have a good night, guys. We'll see you. I think probably see you live tomorrow. Actually, I can't remember why, but I think I'm live again tomorrow. And we'll be back, Mike, in a couple of weeks.
And my Doctor Who review will be out on Thursday on my channel.
Don't forget to go over to Code Clud if you are a Sci Trekker and go check them out. And if you're watching on Code Clud, go check out Sci Trek because
vice versa, absolutely.
Need subscribers. So, bye, guys.